Hi, I'm Laura Brandenburg from Bridging the Gap, and we help business analysts start their careers. So at Bridging the Gap, we teach use cases as a technique to analyze and document functional or software requirements. And we get a lot of questions like, what about user stories, right? And user stories are super important. If you're on an agile software development team, you probably know what I mean, and you've probably created user stories before. And so you're wondering well, what's all the noise about use cases? Why are people still using use cases? Use cases have been around for literally decades. And if you gave me one tool or stranded me on a desert island and made me choose one business analyst requirements tool, I would choose use cases. They are the very first tool I learned, the first technique I learned, the first way I learned how to analyze and document functional requirements. And I really think I'm a stronger business analyst because of the focus I had and how many use cases I wrote early in my career. Now, that doesn't mean in an agile environment I don't also write user stories and sometimes even kind of write lighter use cases. So let me talk more about how they work together and why I think use cases are so important. So when you work through a use case and think through a use case, you're thinking through how the user and the system interact together. You're also thinking through exactly where variations can occur, where exceptions can occur, what has to be true before the user can even start the requirements in that path, what has to be true after. And in the process of mapping that out and using the right language, it's really important, avoiding passive voice, avoiding before and after, really getting the steps and the sequencing clear and using very clear language, consistent terminology in your use case. In the process of going through that, often you discover questions that you don't think about when you're writing a requirement here and a requirement here and a requirement here, or when you're writing a huge long list of requirements. Okay, and so it's the thinking process that is just so critical, especially as a newer business analyst who's trying to figure out what should I put in my user stories, right? Are these complete? Does this have enough? How do they thread together? It can be overwhelming when you sit down and try to look at this big long list of product backlog items and figure out what requirements and what acceptance tests and what acceptance criteria should go in each of those. And so that's the value of the use case and why I think it's so important, even as we move towards more agile software development environments, especially as new business analysts to learn this skill. So it's interesting because as a senior business analyst, a lot of times I'll be well, Laura, you don't actually suggest that I write my use cases and then break them all apart into user stories, right? And yeah, as a senior business analyst, if you've written hundreds of use cases like me, you probably don't always need to actually write the use case, right? Because you can think, you've done it so many times, you can think through it almost unconsciously. And so as you're writing your individual user stories from that thread of functionality, you're thinking in use cases and you've got it all covered because it's all in your head. That works once you've done this for a while and once you're really confident in your techniques and have other ways of managing that kind of information. It's really hard as a new business analyst to sit down and drop yourself into that state. And that's why we still teach use cases skills at Bridging the Gap, why I think they're so critically important and why we see people have the ahas of oh, this is how I need to specify software requirements. This is how I come up with the questions that I didn't even know I needed to ask. This is how I can be confident that I haven't missed or overlooked requirements. And those are really, really, really important areas of confidence and skills to have as a new business analyst. And so that's our focus on use case thinking. So it doesn't mean that user stories aren't important. I really do think that in a lot of environments today, if you're working with an agile software development team, you're going to break that use case apart into user stories. And we've added, just recently, we've re-released our use cases and wireframes course, and we've added a lesson on user stories to talk about that process. And whether you're an experienced business analyst who actually writes the use cases and the user stories, or whether you think in use cases and write the user stories, or whether you're still just in a more traditional iterative environment that's not quite yet agile, and you're just writing user stories, which hats off to you, it's all good too. It's as long as you're staying in that more iterative, responsive, collaborative mode and not like waterfall of one step, then the next step, then the next step, and in the handoffs and the throwing things over the wall, like then that's a great way to be more collaborative and iterative with your team and really make sure everybody's on the same page about what the software requirements are. So just wanted to share my thoughts on use cases and user stories. I would love to hear your thoughts below. There's a lot of debate about this topic within the business analysis profession as well as within the agile community, and it's an important topic. I think we need to talk about it. We need to understand it. We need to understand why we're teaching different techniques and how they work together, not just to like facilitate a really efficient software development process, but also to facilitate like the right business analysis process that actually ensures that everyone understands the business problem we're trying to solve and how we're solving that with technology, and has a set of tools that the business community can really understand and validate and review and approve in a meaningful way, so that we're building what that community really, really needs and will benefit from with the software. So again, I'm Laura Brandenburg from Bridging the Gap, and whether you write use cases or user stories, hats off to you for being a business analyst. Thank you for being here.